Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Yay for Business podcast. It's me, Courtney Shaw. This is episode 35, and I'm going to do a quick episode for you here on services versus courses. I'm going to make this really clear. I don't see anyone talking about this in the way that I'm going to talk about it. It's usually like they prefer one or the other. They're trying to like promote one or the other. I have a very different take on this, so stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to have a really special, I have a special extra like free training for you that this content that I'm going to share is also going to be shared in that free training, but it's just one little piece of that. It's going to be a training on the transition of going from services to courses and what that really looks like. So if you go to my website at CourtneyShaw.com, in the navigation, there's a button that says free training. And if you click that, you just have to put in your name and email address and you'll get instant access to the training. It's not like a webinar that you have to schedule time for or anything like that. It is about an hour long, but you have access to that on demand that you can watch at your leisure. And that's going to go over the whole process of transitioning from services to courses. What I want to talk about right now is I really want to focus in on this topic of just services versus courses. And it amazes me that people aren't talking about this transition more. Like people talk about it in the way that I sort of maybe clickbaited. I didn't mean to, but of like services versus courses and like really like putting their flag in one camp or the other. But it amazes me that people aren't talking about the transition because most people who launch a course are service providers who are transitioning into launching courses. In fact, like that's how it should happen. It's very rare that someone just comes out and launches a course out of nowhere. They have some kind of momentum or experience that's backing them up. So what I've noticed is that people who talk about services or people who are preaching about services are on a high horse about services, and people who are talking and preaching about courses are on a high horse about courses. And they like to talk about why one is better than the other, and you're not a real business owner if you don't have one or the other or whatever. So the service provider sort of like evangelicals talk about how services are better than courses because like I actually care about my clients and I work with them one-on-one, and I'm not like just trying to be like some skeevy marketer with a course, which is like such a dangerous overgeneralization and so unhelpful. But it's sort of this like I care more or like I'm more invested in my clients kind of thing, or people don't understand courses and all of that. All right. The course side of things, people who teach courses sometimes can really get on a high horse about like, well, if you don't have a course, you can't scale and you can't have passive income and you're not a real business owner if you're offering one-on-one services. And I've even seen this week, someone I like really, really admire was saying something about this. Like, if you don't offer your package this way, then you can't scale or you can't do this. I'm like, well, I have lots of clients who are growing businesses without that package. So I don't like this marketing. I don't like this marketing that like one thing is better than the other. What I try to do and what I try to do with our clients and in my marketing, and I hope this is coming across, is share the pros and cons of both and why each are valuable and allow you to see why I recommend having a two-part business model where you do both. But like, I'm not saying if you don't do that model, you can't have a business. I'm just saying in my experience, it's like a really successful business model for people who really resonate with my message and sort of like what I'm sharing. And so if you consume my content and you're like, ooh, I like that, or I gel with that, or I fit with that, then you might also resonate with this business model. It wouldn't work for every single person, but I believe in it and it's what I teach, okay? There are benefits to both services and courses. And I want to talk about benefits of each. So on the services side of things, there's so many benefits. Services, you can start a service-based business in 1 week and book out clients for the month. You could absolutely do that. I know that might sound like really hard. It's not as hard as you think it would be. You can't do that with a course. Like that's not going to happen. The learning curve is too high. The audience amount you need. Services come from the network you already know, the people who already know, like, and trust you. The way that I teach services overcomes any like those obstacles that you would have to getting clients more quickly. So you can make more money sooner because of the relationships you have. You can also make more money because you're charging one-on-one prices versus course prices, right? So someone's going to have a course that's maybe $500 to $1,000. The service might be closer to $2,000 to $5,000, right? So we're going to make a lot more money a lot faster from offering services. Offering services also allows you to establish and refine your signature process or your method so that you can make sure that you know what you're doing and you know what you're teaching and you know how people receive your content and learn how to do things before turning it into a course. And that's true even if you have done for you services. And yay for 100K rather. I always mix those two up. I talk about 3 different types of services. There's done for you services, there's consulting services, and there's coaching services. And I have a whole chart that explains the differences and the overlaps and similarities between each. You can absolutely create a course based on being a web designer, for example, even if in your web design service, you're not teaching people how to do the web design, you're doing it for them. So it's still about you refining your process so that when you do teach it, you've gotten really clear on what works really well. And that was the same for me when I went from being a sales page copywriter to launching my program, Sales Page CPR. You can make a full-time income from services while you build your audience. You have to have an audience to launch a course. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So this is the whole crux of the 2-part business model that I teach, and I will talk about this way more in that free training I told you about. If you go to CourtneyShaw.com and click the free training button at the top of the website, you'll be able to watch that instantly. I'll go into this in way more detail, but the ability to have a consistent full-time income while you grow your audience and while you build your course is essential. I have watched and worked with so many course creators who were putting so much pressure on their course to make money, and then they choked it. They suffocated the course and all their creativity was lost in it. And when I say lost, meaning they didn't have any creativity in it and it wasn't fun. And so it just had all this desperation in it. We want that services money coming in so that that's your full-time gig. You add the course on and then you slowly transition into the course if that's what you want to do, or you can maintain having both. It's kind of nice to have both sources of revenue coming in, right? So this is what I recommend. Let's talk about benefits to having courses, and then we'll talk about downsides of each. Courses give you the ability to serve more people at a more accessible price point. So there's that scalability without you working with people one-on-one. It doesn't require more of your time per student. So you have, if you have 10 students or 100 students, it's not going to take more time to deliver the course because the course is structured in a way that, yes, there are opportunities for them to get questions answered and things like that. But the course you can sell more copies and it's not more things for you to do. Typically, courses are more quote unquote scalable as long as your audience is growing and they're built to be scalable and you're not adding one-on-one calls for people into your courses, which I've seen people do. So those are some benefits to each courses and services. Downsides. Let's talk about downsides to services. They take up more of your time to do than courses, right? They are time consuming. They limit how many clients you can work with. So you're limited with a service. You can only maybe work with 2 or 3 clients a month for some cases, maybe as many as 10 clients a month, but that's very rare. And usually your prices aren't high enough. And often service providers have this feeling what's next? I feel I could have a bigger impact. I feel this isn't it for me. I don't want to be doing this forever. So courses become sort of the long game. It's more of that legacy sort of offer versus the services, which is better money right now. And I talk about this a lot. Services are your money right now. Courses are your money later. Downsides to courses. The learning curve. Oh my God, the learning curve. We have people in our program, we tell everyone in our phase 2 of Yay for 100K, watch phase 2 all the way through before you start implementing because there are so many moving parts and we have tried to simplify it as much as humanly possible. And we have a very straightforward launch strategy for our clients, but it is a lot. And I think people think of courses and they think passive income, but it's the opposite. There's so much work, especially the first launch. Right? Once you've launched, then you've launched and then it's rinse and repeat. But that sizable learning curve is pretty intense. speaking of the word sizable, you need a sizable audience to launch. So that's a lot of work for you to grow that audience. You do need to build the audience, and you need to have the visibility there, because it's a game of numbers. Only a certain small percentage of people in your audience during any given launch is going to enroll in your program. And because it's going to be a lower price point than a service, because of the amount of access it has to you, then you're going to need more sales. So it puts you in a totally different role. You become this marketer and salesperson versus more focusing on doing the work and the services. And finally, I've already mentioned this, but it's not at all passive and requires a ton of upfront work. So here's my hot take. People vastly overestimate how much work is required to run a service-based business and underestimate how much work is required to run a course-based business. Here's what I mean. If you think services are too hard, it's because you're doing them in a way that's too hard. That's not your fault. It's just you haven't learned how to do them in a streamlined way. That's why in Yay for 100K, the first thing we do is streamline your services. What do I mean by that? We need to streamline your delivery. We need to make sure that you're delivering your services in a way that is not like so time consuming. Even little time sucks, like the emails you're sending to clients, those need to be templated, and there needs to be a process for those. There needs to be a step-by-step process for the service so that it's automated in so many ways. And you can also hand off some of the work to a VA or someone on your team. You don't have to, but you can. And so you're probably overdoing it in your services. And then when I say people underestimate how much work is required to run a course-based business, they think about the passive income. They don't realize it is a long game with courses. It's a lot of upfront work for less money, but over time, that's going to grow. So here's my message I'm going to leave you with. This is going to be a shorter episode, is in short, services are your money now. That's your revenue now. Don't burn your bridges there. Don't burn your boats. Keep those clients, okay? We want to refine. We want to make sure we have ideal clients. We want to let go of the PITA or pain in the ass clients. We want to make sure you have a signature service. So we have some work to do on the services in that front to make it easier, to make it more profitable. Then once we've done that, we can turn those services into your signature course. That's your money for later. That's, when I say later, I mean the marathon versus the sprint. Okay. So services are the sprint, courses are the marathon. I love both. They complement each other so well. And what you'll see I talk about more in the training, the free training on the website, if you go to CourtneyShaw.com and you click that free training button, in that training on transitioning from services to programs, I talk about this two-part business model of having both and why it is such a wonderful business model. You do not have to choose between services or courses. You don't have to pick a camp and put your flag in the ground. I recommend that you do both. And in fact, I want you to turn your service into a course. So I'm going to leave you there. I hope you'll go get that training. I want to keep this short because I really encourage you to hop off of this podcast, go grab that training and watch it. You can probably put it on faster speed and watch it faster if you're short on time. And I hope that this cleared up a few of the misconceptions between services and courses. Yay! Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you love today's content and are ready to finally start making a full-time income from your business this year, make sure to get on the wait list for my program, Yay for Clients, over at yayforclients.com, and you'll be notified the next time enrollment is open. Or if you're already booked with clients and you want to learn how you can turn your signature service into a signature program and add 100K of revenue to your bottom line, come apply to my group coaching program, Yay for 100K, over at CourtneyShaw.com/apply. Thanks again and have an awesome day.